Good day to you guys, Archangel Manga here, and last week I announced that I was going to be doing a Q&A video, and I gave you all 1 week to answer me questions. So as promised, here it is. You sent in your questions and I'm going to be answering every single one of them right now. I was really surprised with the response I got from that video. 17 of you ended up asking me various questions. You know, some of you had up to 5, 6 questions each, which I thought was really awesome. So because my printer is knackered, I tallied down all the questions from each and every one of yous, and I'm going to be answering every single one. In fact, it was actually 18 people because one of you sent me like a personal message with a question that way. So yeah, nonetheless, I'm going to be answering all of them. I reckon this video is going to be kind of long, so what I'm thinking of doing is, because I don't expect everybody to like watch the entire video, you don't necessarily have to do that. So what I'm thinking of doing is, as I'm answering like all of your questions, I'll just go through one person at a time, answering all the questions. So in the description below, I'll end up putting like a list of usernames and like the time next to each person's name at which I start answering their questions. So you can like skip to whatever part in the video you want to if you just want to see me answer your own questions, or you could just stick around and watch the whole thing. You find out some pretty interesting stuff about me. Because there was a lot of very good questions asked, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun answering these questions. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the first question came from Yasin Sukarieh. Dude, I'm like really sorry if I'm butchering your name there. Yasin Sukarieh. He asked me, have you ever or do you plan to make your own manga series? It's a really good question. When I was a lot younger, when I was like around 13 or 14, I was practically obsessed with anything to do with Dragon Ball Z. I'd only read a little bit of the manga at that time and seen mostly just the anime that was on like Toonami and Cartoon Network and stuff. So I'd never really seen any of the DBZ films. I was aware of like the characters and the antagonists and stuff in the DBZ films just from like web searches and seeing like little flash clips and stuff, but I've never actually seen the full length film. So I was really interested in seeing the Broly movies. And at the time, it's like the early 2000s. Not everybody had like the internet. It wasn't really a household thing that it is today. So you couldn't really get a hold of them. So I just decided to make up my own. And this is half of my sort of version of the Broly saga. It's pretty crap for today's standards. But I was really proud of it. I invested so much time into this. Like, I stopped working on it because I never completed it. I stopped working on it maybe about when I got to about 15 or 16. Let's see, the last page I ever worked on, here it is. I'll show you the page count. That's the last page I ever worked on, and that's at page 659. So yeah, I did 659 pages for my own Broly Saga manga, like fan made, own interpretation. I had like loads of plans for it, like you have like, loads of different transformations. Let me just give you a little bit of a taste of some of the artwork that I did in it. Because there's a point in it where he goes like Golden Uzaru, and I really enjoyed drawing that part because he was like a giant ape in like Super Saiyan form. And hold on, in fact I'll show you this bit where he's fighting Vegeta. I don't know how good this will show up on the camera. I might need to refocus it a little bit. Hold on, it might not show up at all because it's all in pencil. And there's terrible lighting in here. Just try and refocus. I can't really refocus it, but if you can kind of see it, you can kind of see Vegeta getting cut in half there by Broly, who's like at the side. But yeah, this is really the only major project I worked on. Like when I was growing up, well, when I was in my teen years. Recently, I've had a few opportunities to like do collaborative projects. Like doing the artwork for like people's graphic novels and stuff. Like I was working on a graphic novel with a friend who was writing the story. It's kind of like a little Bakuman thing. When I kind of dropped out of that because I've got other commitments and stuff, like I'm going back to university and stuff, so there's nothing I'm particularly working on right now, but I do plan on creating my own, you know, whether it's a series or just like a standalone one book. I would absolutely love to create my own manga, so yeah, that's that. So, next question came from JaymesHanson. Yeah, you do all them Bleach reviews. So I know that guy. Where do you want to go with YouTube, and what inspired you to make videos? I don't really have any particular goal, or like, you know, I'm kind of satisfied with the amount of subscribers I've got. Like, I'm not really, you know, interested so much in, you know, getting like thousands and upon thousands of subscribers. You know, like I mainly set up my YouTube account. I started making these videos to basically network with people and like start, you know, meet similar minded people. And yeah, I mean, I just genuinely enjoy talking about manga and anime and drawings and things like that. So ideally, you know, if I could get to maybe about, I don't know, you know, 1,000 subscribers, you know, and you know, enough people that I know of that are really enjoying my videos, and you know, that's the thing, I like to communicate with, you know, the subscribers that I've got. So you know, I like a small close-knit community like that, so that's really ideal, and I'm kind of already getting that already. You know, there's quite a few regulars that see my videos commenting and stuff like that, and yeah, I enjoy talking with, you know, like-minded people. So yeah, that, probably one of the main things that inspired me to make videos about manga and anime and stuff like that was the fact that a lot of other people were doing it. I hadn't really been on YouTube that much until I started reading up-to-date chapters of like One Piece and Naruto online, and then I thought, you know, I wonder if anybody else is reading these chapters, you know, up to date. So I came on YouTube to basically look and see if anybody else was, you know, reading them. And you know, I saw like videos on like Forever World and Code Provider. It's actually Forever World's channel who I first subscribed to. I started watching his videos and then just getting like, you know, suggestions of other channels coming up, and found out there was this massive, you know, anime and manga community on YouTube, and it was just a great place to network. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Alright, so the next question I got was from KnockingMaster Teppei. How much money do you think you've spent on manga and also your anime collection? This was very, very difficult question, solely based on the fact that I knew I had to go through all of my manga and basically price up each individual volume, taking into account that some of them I've bought online, so they haven't been at full retail price. Some that I've got in like, you know, second hand, or you know, some that I've got in like you know, major discounts for like £1 and things like that. And the vast majority, like the main bulk of my manga, has been bought on like 3 for 2. You know, buy 3 get 2. Well, no, what am I saying? Buy 2 get 1 free, basically. So yeah, but I did it because you asked. And I really didn't mind. It was something interesting, you know, something I'd never really done before. But I narrowed it down to basically £2,375 and 81 pence. And that's, you know, give or take maybe, you know, £10 here or there. But yeah, that's. I mean, I've been collecting manga solidly since maybe about mid 2009. You know, end of 2009 maybe, and. Yeah, I'm gobsmacked that I spent that much money, but you know, it's not really that great of a amount of money, you know. I mean, it's, you know, 4 years, I guess, but my anime collection is a lot less, because I've only really just started collecting, like actually buying anime like in the last like year, because I went through a period of like just years and years and years where I just didn't watch anime at all. I just was solely reading manga, so I've only really gotten into anime really in the last year. So from what I've got at the side of me here, I'd say maybe about close to about £100 an anime. But you know, I don't know if that's it. I don't know if you want to know if how much I've spent on anime, or if you actually want to see my anime collection. If you want to see my anime collection, I'll do a separate video on that. So you can see it, you know, what I've got up to now, because I'm still going to be buying more, and I've got a few pre-orders and stuff. but yeah, almost £2.5 grand I've spent on manga. Yeah, so God, that's a lot. But yeah, thanks for that question. That's, you know, you've taught me something there, because I know how much I've spent. Next question was from TheAnimeBlaze. Basically, he was the one who inspired me to even do this video in the first place. He asked me, what's the most interesting anime or manga you've ever read or watched? Manga-wise, I'd say the most interesting manga I've read, I've got my shelf up here, and I'm basically just going solely off what I own. But I'd say the most interesting thing I've read, just for how different it is A Bride Story by Kaoru Mori. And it's basically about the trials and tribulations of like marriage in like a region of like kind of like Asia Minor in the 19th century, like near the Caspian Sea, you know, on like the Russian Uzbekistani border. And it just follows the lives of like, you know, people in like different clans, you know, like nomadic tribes and stuff. Basically, you know, just it's like a slice of life historical like romance sort of thing, and it's really interesting because Kaoru Mori has done so much research into like the, you know, the culture and like the backgrounds and just everything, and it's really interesting read. Like, it's not greatly plot driven, you know, there's not that great of a plot because it's just, like I say, it's a slice of life, but it is really interesting. It's completely different manga, and it's not a manga that, you know, it's not something that's ever been told, you know, there's no real sort of mangas that I know of that have been told, you know, in these regions. You know, it's a really interesting manga, and the artwork is just phenomenal. I don't know if you've heard of it at all, but you know, the artwork is just stunning. It's published by Yen Prince. I really don't know if you can see that on the camera. I don't know if it's focusing alright, but The Bride Story by Kaoru Mori, that's the most interesting manga I've read, I'd say. And the most interesting anime I've watched, I'd say, is, from what I own, is Mushishi. This is an absolutely amazing anime. You know, you watch a lot of anime, so you might have already seen this already. But you know, I highly recommend it if you haven't. I think it's about 30 episodes long. It's quite old. The manga's like really difficult to come by, but the anime you can get actually in a Savers edition, which basically gets the whole series, and you can get it relatively cheap. That's, you know, if you haven't seen it or own it already. But yeah, this is definitely the most interesting anime I've watched. It's just so weird and intense at the same time, but so delicate and fast driven and everything. It's just I just got loads of different emotions from it, and it was just really interesting. It's something unlike I've ever really seen before. So yeah, that's a good question. Thank you so much for asking that. Let's see. Alright, next question is from Lexi Tait. I think she lives in New Zealand. I've known her for quite some time. She asked me, since I haven't read any manga and I'm looking at maybe buying some at our Comic-Con, what would you recommend I start with? That's a really good question, you know, especially coming from somebody who doesn't, you know, read manga or anything like that at all. Now, I'm quite happy to give you a recommendation. Like, you know, I know you're quite a reader yourself. I know you're into, you know, your Stephen King and everything like that. So I guess if I was going to recommend you something based on like the horror genre, I thought of it already. I would recommend, from what I own and what I've read already, I'd recommend you pick up a book called Parasite. It's by a guy called Hitoshi Iwaki. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. If you can't see it, I'll send you a private message with like a link, you know, as to where you can buy it on Amazon or something like that. But it's 8 volumes long, and it's relatively cheap to come by. You know, if you do happen to see it at your Comic-Con that you go to, I highly recommend you pick it up, because it's a really good series. You know, it's got horror elements, action. You know, it's got like sci-fi as well, because it's basically about alien parasites that like come down to Earth and like take over the human body, you know, by taking over their head. And they've got these, you know, really cool weapons and things like that they use. You know, and they kind of just like merge with the human body, because as you can see, they've got like eyeballs in like the hands and stuff. It's really weird, but really fun series. So yeah, I'd highly recommend you pick this up, Lexi. And your next question, I actually like this question. Random question. If you were sent to Hogwarts, what house would you be in? See, I've only seen the Harry Potter films. I've never actually read the books, but from seeing the films, like, I wouldn't want to be in Gryffindor because that's like, you know, the cool one. I don't think I'd like to be in Slytherin because I don't like Draco Malfoy, or I don't like snakes. I know that's really stupid. I don't want to be in Hufflepuff because I don't like that name. I just think it's a stupid name. But I think, like, just solely going on what the name sounds like, I'd probably be in Ravenclaw because it just sounds really cool. Ravenclaw. So yeah, I'd be in Ravenclaw just because it sounds cool. Alright, so the next question is from Khaled al Faiedy. Again, I'm sorry if I'm getting that name wrong. But yeah, he asked me, did you read the Breaker manga? Yeah, I read the first chapter and really enjoyed it. I like the kind of juxtaposition between like the hyper realistic sort of, like, you know, backgrounds and character designs, and then like you just have like this teacher doing all these really goofy things like in a really cartoony, like Disney-esque way, you know, with all these stupid faces. I thought like those two sort of contradiction factors were really interesting. And the story seems really cool as well. Like, you've got this like bullied kid, and like this random, you know, unusual weird teacher comes out of nowhere. Starts picking on him, you know, for the fact that he got his ass kicked, and then turns out that, you know, he's actually in his class, and yeah, he's like a martial arts genius or something. I don't know. I've only read the first chapter, but what I want to ask you is whether or not this has actually been printed in English. Like, is there anywhere I can actually buy this manga? Because I would love to actually read it more, like in hard copy version. So. You know, if you get back to me on that, that'd be awesome. And the next question he asked was, did you finish Bleach? I'm currently rereading through the volumes that I already have. I've got 38 volumes so far. So I'm just up to the, like, you know, near the end of the Soul Society arc. So I'm basically just gonna buy them as and when they're coming out. And by the time I'm up to, you know, more recent chapters, the actual books, the actual Tankobon books, will be out themselves anyway, so I'm just going to read through the whole thing as and when the whole series is finished. I'm just kind of taking my time on it because I've got like a huge backlog of stuff I need to read, so I'm currently reading Bleach, but I'm still not up to date. So yeah, Khaled, thank you for your questions. Now the next set of questions are from InsideousSwede. He asks, what are your top 5 favourite anime movies? It's a very good question. But I did compile a little bit of a list. But because I'm watching a lot of anime nowadays, like, my favourite sort of, you know, shows and mangas and, you know, movies kind of tend to fluctuate. So the list that I'm going to give you now might not necessarily be reflective of, you know, what will be my favourites in like 6 months' time or something like that, for example. So my favourites now are at 5. The end of Evangelion, which was like the alternate retelling of the end of the original Evangelion series. Like, that movie was just so good. Like, the animation was just amazing. I absolutely love that film. And I just love the Evangelion franchise in general anyway. I need to check out some of the other spin-offs, you know, manga-wise, like, you know, the Shinji Ikari Diaries and things like that. So yeah, that movie was just simply awesome. At 4, a Studio Ghibli film, The Cat Returns. I first watched it on a channel we've got over here called Film 4. We basically just like showcase movies, and every now and then they do, like, you know, seasonal sort of movies. Like, they had like a Studio Ghibli season, you know, they do one of them like every couple of years or something. So I first watched The Cat Returns then, and I absolutely loved that film. It was just brilliant. If you haven't seen it, check out some Studio Ghibli films. Just, you need to see Studio Ghibli films. They're just amazing. Number 3, my third favourite anime movie of all time so far is the original Ghost in the Shell movie. I just recently rewatched that about 3 weeks ago now, I'd say. And, you know, for the fact that I think it was made in 1996, like the animation still holds as like some of the best animation. It can even, you know, hold up to animation today. It's even better than some of the animation that I've seen today, you know, in today's anime. The Ghost in the Shell is just an amazing film. What more could I say about it? You know, if you want me to do a review on it, I will do a review on it because I need to read the manga as well. Number 2 is the original Akira film, the animated feature from I think 1988. That was actually the first anime I ever saw, the first anime movie I ever saw, and even though I've read the manga, like what the manga up there, the manga's a lot better, but for the nostalgia that Akira holds for me, you know, the film, it'll always remain one of my top 5. And number 1 is another Studio Ghibli film, Princess Mononoke. That's literally one of the best films I've ever seen, not even just in anime, just generally across the board in the entire film industry. Princess Mononoke is one of the best films I've ever seen. And it was almost Spirited Away, but I didn't want to have too many Studio Ghibli films, you know, in this little top 5 that I was giving you. So I'll probably say that Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away probably tie for number 1, because they're just both just phenomenal films. I absolutely love Hayao Miyazaki's work. You know, I'm planning on getting all of his films on Blu-ray. In fact, just all of the Studio Ghibli collections, even the films that he hasn't directed himself, you know, that are in the Studio Ghibli, you know, library. So yeah, the next question you asked was also, do you have any goals for your manga collection, like getting certain series or owning a certain number of manga? Well, in the last year, I've been like collecting manga like proper hardcore, so I don't have a particular goal like where I want to, you know, however many volumes I want to get. I'm just going to keep collecting, and you know, maybe in another 10 years I'll have like thousands and thousands of volumes of manga. You know, I'm never ever going to stop collecting manga because I'm always wanting to read new series, so I don't have a particular goal or like, you know, like a stop point in my manga collecting. I'm just always going to be collecting manga, you know, bar none, for years, forever. But there are a few out of print series that I really need to get. Namely Berserk. I really want to get Berserk, but it's so dangerously out of print. Like some of the volumes are like going for like £80 and things like that over here, and I'm not going to spend that much money on one volume. So I'm hoping that either Dark Horse Manga like sell the rights to it to maybe Viz Media or like, I don't know, Yen Press or you know Kodansha or something, and it basically gets like a re-release, you know, a reprint. Because I really need to read Berserk, but I don't like reading things online. You know, I like hard copy versions of my manga, so I'm refraining from reading Berserk for the time being. And there's another manga that's really out of print as well called Mushishi. I've got the first volume of it, and the prices for that tend to fluctuate because it's out of print. So sometimes it can be around like £16, and then you know next time it could be about £150. You know, so it really fluctuates violently. So I need to get that. But I might actually do a separate video on like, you know, manga that I really want to get, you know, that are, you know, more or less unattainable because they're out of print. So, you know, thank you for that question. That's a really good question. Alright, so the last question you asked me in InsideousSwede was, lastly, if you were able to create a main character to a manga series, what special ability would he or she have? Oh, wow, that's a really that's a tough question. If I was to say anything, because I used to do a few character designs like when I was thinking of like starting my own series like 1 or 2 years ago, and when I was working on a few collaborative projects with a friend, and like I always thought that like if I was ever going to create a character, like they'd have less power but like more intelligence, kind of like Batman. You know, he doesn't like have any particular, you know, superhuman powers. He just, you know, he's got, you know, superior fighting abilities, you know, above the average human, and he's got his intellect. But if I was going to create a character that had an actual supernatural ability, I think something to do with like the realm of the dead, like, you know, I really like the idea of like astral projection, like, you know, going to sleep and then, you know, having like an out of body experience, you know, like your sort of ghost like coming out of your body and being able to do stuff while you're, you know, basically idle. I really like the idea of that, you know, kind of like separating yourself from your physical body and, you know, being a spirit and being able to do stuff like in the land of the dead, or, you know, in a different realm or something like that, being able to see something else like that your human body wouldn't be able to see, you know, like fighting demons or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, astral projection would be a really cool ability to see, you know, like in like a manga or something like that, I think. And if I was ever going to do a manga, that would definitely be something I'd consider, but like in like the top sort of 3, you know, abilities that my, you know, protagonist or whoever like had. So yeah, you know, thanks for your questions. Next person is Mr. TheAnimeManga. He asks, dub or sub, what do you like better? See, there's pros and cons to both things. Like, usually when I start watching an anime, I will automatically watch it in dub first because I want to sort of appreciate the actual art quality and, like, you know, the standard of the animation and things like that. And then I'll rewatch it in sub to kind of, like, you know, compare and see which better, you know, see which is the better, like, you know, voice, you know, voice acting. Usually I tend to find that, like, the Japanese voice acting is better and, like, more in sync with, like, you know, the mouth flaps. But there have actually been some animes that I found better in dub, like a One Piece. I really like the dub for that. Well, I actually prefer the Japanese dub for that, but I think the English dub is really good. Like, I just recently got the first 2 collections that have been released in the UK. Watched them straight away in dub, because I'm getting up to date more with the Japanese dub. I'm like on Water 7 in the Japanese dub, and I'm more familiar with the Japanese cast, but hearing the English voices like of characters that I really like is really interesting. I haven't really watched an anime yet, because obviously I'm kind of new to anime. I haven't really watched an anime yet where I really haven't liked the dub. If anything, if I had to say there was a sub that I didn't like, it's the original Dragon Ball Z series. Like, I really didn't like the Japanese voice actors for that. I was so accustomed to watching it in English, and when I heard it in Japanese, I just thought it's just too wrong. It just doesn't sound right. So I can't really say whether I like dub or sub better, because I like them both for different reasons, and I dislike them both for different reasons also. You know, I think dub is good when you want to appreciate, like, the art quality and the animation, and sub can be good when you want to, you know, something alternative, you want to see it in its original format. So, you know, I like them both for different reasons, and I'll alternate between the two. I don't stick with one or the other. You know, I compare them both. So, you know, thanks for that question. And your next question was, what characters do you find boring? I might get a lot of stick for this from the One Piece fans, because I am a massive One Piece fan, but I was a little bit disappointed with the Fishman Island arc after, you know, the time skip, and I thought Hody Jones was just, he had no sort of, I mean, yeah, he had his hatred for humans, and, like, he had his reasons, you know, with Fisher Tiger and all that. You know, if you're up to date with One Piece, you'll understand. But I just thought he was a really boring villain, like, compared to all the other villains that, you know, Luffy had gone up against, you know, up until that point. You know, even earlier on in One Piece, like, you know, with Don Krieg and, you know, Captain Kuro, and even Buggy was interesting. I love Buggy. But I just thought that, you know, for so late on in the game, and the first villain, like, after the time skip, he didn't really have that big of an impact on me. He's kind of anticlimactic. I was really expecting good things, you know, when they got to Fishman Island arc, and I really enjoyed the arc. I just didn't think it was as good as what we'd seen previously, you know, for, like, Water 7 and Thriller Bark and, you know, Marineford and all that. So yeah, Hody Jones, I found him kind of boring. And moving over to Naruto, we're in the Ninja War arc now, and there was one character in the Ninja War arc. I think it was from the village of Stone, like, with the Raikage's village. And he had, like, his right hand man, Darui, I think his name was. I found him so boring, like, with his just expressionless face and, you know, his boring voice, and I just found him really boring to watch. Like, when he was fighting the Kinkaku brothers, like, I like the Kinkaku brothers, and I like, you know, the weapons that they used, but I thought Darui was just such a boring character to watch. So yeah, I can't really think. I was actually going through my anime and manga collection, like, thinking of characters that I found boring, and the manga that I actually own, you know, I pretty much enjoy to an extent. There's no real mangas that I own that I, you know, really dislike to the point where I want to get rid of them. You know, I thought of that of Bleach at one point, and I could probably name quite a few characters in Bleach that I found really boring. Like, you know, most of the side characters that I just find, you know, are irrelevant to the story. You know, they'll just, like, appear for, like, one chapter or something like that. you know, because I have my gripes with Bleach, but I'm giving that a second shot right about now. I'm rereading through those volumes, so there's not really many characters that I find boring in Bleach. You know, in the Soul Society arc, it's more up to the point where it gets to, you know, the Hueco Mundo arc and, you know, the Aizen arc, where I start to find some of the characters quite boring. You know, like characters that just kind of, you know, appear for like one volume and then, you know, either get killed off or, you know, things like, I can't think of any names particularly in Bleach because there's so many different characters in Bleach. I'm just rereading it, but yeah, thanks for your question. Alright, moving along. The next question was from lightIchigo. He asked me, have you read any webtoons or manhwa? Now, manhwa is a term I've only become familiar with like in literally the last week. Basically, I know it as Korean manga. Now, I've known for years that Korea and Korean artists have been producing like their own version of manga, but I just thought it was called manga. I didn't know there was actually a separate term for it, manhwa. I think it's like another name for it as well, but I don't know where it is. But in terms of manhwa, the only one I've read so far, and it's literally the first chapter, is The Breaker, which I'm really enjoying. There's actually another one who asked me a similar question, like, have I read The Breaker? Yeah, I've read the first chapter, like it's like 30 sort of pages, something like that, and it's really, really good. I love the art style, and I love how like it's like a mixture of like seinen-esque, like realistic art, and then like, you know, really zany sort of distorted, you know, facial expressions, like with that teacher, and he just doing all these crazy stupid faces while everybody else looks like relatively human. You know, I like that sort of contrast, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, if you've got any more manhwa to recommend, I think that's how you pronounce it. I might be pronouncing it completely wrong, manhwa. That's just how you've spelled it, so I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. But if you've got any more to recommend to me, then please do so. And if you know any that's actually being published in English, you know, actually released, you know, in like hard copy format, I'd love for you to tell me if any manhwa has actually been released in that format, because I, you know, like you can sell, you know, I like to buy hard copy versions of manga or manhwa. Pardon me. And yeah, it looks really cool. Your next question, or well, it's actually part of the same question. I've read any webtoons. The only one I'm really familiar with, and it's my cousin who's really into it, and I started reading a little bit of it, is Homestuck. It's kind of like a webcomic, like there's a few flash animations in there. I don't know if you've heard of it, or if you probably read it, or, you know, more than I have. I've only read like a few pages of it. It's about this kid called John Egbert, who gets like a copy of this game in the mail called Sburb, or Sburb, or I don't know how you pronounce it. And when he puts the disc in, he accidentally triggers the end of the world and gets like teleported to like another planet. And like on this other planet, it's like he's basically inside the game of Sburb, and like has to play it through the end in order to like escape. Like he has like a few friends and stuff in there. That's like the gist of it. That's all I really know of it. But from what I've read about it, like actually about the series, like on reviews and stuff like that, it's really, really long, extremely complex, and then like it keeps breaking the fourth wall, fifth wall, sixth wall, you know, and it gets to a point where like the main villain of the story is actually writing the story. So like, you know, like some of the protagonists will, like, you know, they'll be like holding the weapons, and then like automatically the weapons will just disappear because the antagonist of the story is writing it. So so it's something I really want to like keep reading, because it looks really, really cool. But because it's so long and I've got such a huge backlog of, you know, things that I need to read, you know, it's just kind of on the back burner right about now. But yeah, if you got any more webtoons to recommend to me, you know, send me a personal message or something like that. You know, I'd be really interested to know, because obviously, you know, you must read some yourself or watch them yourself. So yeah, get at me. Alright, moving swiftly along. What's my next page of questions? Alright, so next set of questions is from Walking 00 Dead. Yo, dude, how's it going? his first question to me was favorite seinen series. Oh man, see, the questions that you asked me were short, but some of them were so difficult to answer. But I had to come to a decision, obviously. The thing is, I've just recently read Monster and I loved it so much. That's the one that's most fresh in my memory. But I still can't decide between Monster and 20th Century Boys. And then also Battle Royale kind of, you know, comes in for the nostalgic value because that was the first seinen series I ever read. And for the scale and, you know, the epicness, there's also Akira, which is also one of my favourites. So out of them four, you know, 20th Century Boys and Monster, I'm not really going to decide between them because they're by the same author anyway, and, you know, they're very similar series in terms of, like, you know, story development, and, you know, the antagonist is, you know, very similar. But I do love them series. Battle Royale I prefer for its nostalgic value, but Shuya Nanahara, the main character, is kind of annoying. You know, it's almost like Naruto, like on steroids. You know, I'm gonna save everybody, that kind of thing. So there's not really anything I dislike about Akira. You know, it's just long enough. You know, there's no characters in it that are annoying. You know, Tetsuo is, you know, he goes from annoying to cool rather than cool to annoying, you know, that kind of thing. Like, at first he's just like, you know, Canada's, you know, like, not right hand guy, but, you know, he's kind of like the one that, like, follows Canada around. You know, he's like, you know, he looks up to Canada, and then by the end of the, you know, towards the end of the series, he's just like a god. He's just like, you know, Canada just can't go toe to toe with him at all, you know. So Akira, like, artistically, for the artwork, so, you know, the art in it is just amazing. Katsuhiro Otomo did just a phenomenal job on it. The landscapes in it, like you see, you know, the whole cityscapes are just, like, twisted and, you know, destroyed. The characters, the story, the pacing, it's just a perfect series for me. So probably Akira is my favourite seinen series of all time. So yeah, I'll just go with Akira. Let's see, your next question to me was favourite shonen series. This is an easier question to answer. For the longest time, Dragon Ball was, like, my favourite shonen. And when I say Dragon Ball, I mean, like, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, like the entire sort of series, you know, volumes like 1 to 42 of Dragon Ball. I love the whole thing where, like, when he's a kid, and then when he goes to, like, the Piccolo fight at the, you know, the strongest under the heavens tournament, or whatever it was. And Dragon Ball Z was epic up until a certain point. Like, everything after the Cell saga just, like, plummeted downhill for me. Like, I really did not enjoy the Buu saga. Even in the anime, I really didn't like the Buu saga. Then, like, you know, the anticipation waiting for Buu to awaken, and then he just comes out and he's just like a fat pink blob. That really killed it for me. You know, I was expecting so many great things, and, like, Gohan was such a disappointing character too because he hadn't been training in you know, them years, you know, after the Cell saga, after the Cell tournaments. So, you know, he could have been much better, you know, because he essentially, Akira Toriyama was handing over the reins of the main character to Gohan. You know, Gohan was really supposed to be the person who was supposed to lead it on to the end of Dragon Ball Z, and, you know, they ended up bringing Goku back anyway, so that kind of peed me off. So that's the only reason why Dragon Ball really isn't my favourite series, because the ending was just so anticlimactic. But currently my favourite shonen series, and probably my favourite shonen series of all time, for years to come, probably still my favourite, is One Piece. Everything about One Piece, barring one thing, I absolutely love. The only thing, it's not I dislike it, it's just I like it less than the other arcs, and the only thing I less like about the other arcs is the Fishman Island arc. Because after the 2-year time skip, you know, I felt that, like, you know, Hardy Jones was just, you know, he wasn't that great of an antagonist. You know, he just wasn't on par with Luffy. He just couldn't, you know, step to him. So in a sense, the Fisherman Island arc was kind of disappointing to me, and it only really kind of got better, like, right at the end when, you know, Luffy squares off with Big Mom over the transponder snare. I thought that was epic. So only really the end of Fisherman Island arc was good. But One Piece as a whole, I just absolutely love. You know, I could do an entire review on that, but yeah, I'll cap that off there. Your next question was favourite female character and why. it's another difficult question because I've read quite a bit of manga, but from what I've read, there isn't like many, you know, female leads that really drive a series forward or really, you know, make you root for them as a character. Like I'm currently reading Claymore, and that has plenty of badass female characters, but none so much that, you know, you really, you know, they really stand out. I mean, you know, Claire's such an awesome, she's an awesome character. Teresa's an awesome character, but I need to read Claymore, you know, to really, you know, I don't know, press a verdict, you know, on who my favourite female lead is. So the greatest female I've seen in a manga so far, and who I've admired for since I started reading it, is Nico Robin from One Piece. You know, everything about her I just love. You know, her character design, her as a character generally. She's serious, but you know, she can have a laugh with, you know, the Straw Hats. You know, she's cool, calm, collected. She's got everything about her that's just great. You know, she's got that epic backstory, you know, really sad backstory. You know, the whole thing in Walk 7 where, you know, she's willing to sacrifice her own life, you know, her own life so she can allow the Straw Hats to escape and live on with theirs. I thought it was brilliant. And her importance to the series as a whole as well. I mean, she got that, you know, unique gift of being able to read and understand that ancient language that, you know, has been completely wiped from history. So her importance and relevance to the story is just, it's you know, massive. And if Nico Robin wasn't, you know, if there wasn't a character like her in One Piece, then it wouldn't be as great as it is, I think, in my opinion. So for her significance to the series and her, you know, her strong mentality, you know, she's a really good role model, you know, for that matter, for girls. So for a female character, and she's not even the main character, she's just, you know, one of the, you know, lead characters. You know, I think she's a brilliant female lead, you know, female character. So yeah. Alright, dude, so your next question to me was, what got you into anime and manga? I first got into anime because, like, anime was kind of the most accessible thing for me. You know, it was on television. It was like, you know, it's essentially free to watch. If, you know, you had cable, if you didn't even have cable, you know, you would be able to find anime somewhere. But do you remember a show on Saturday mornings called SMTV Live with Ant and Dec? You must remember it. You know, 9:25, Pokemon. That is essentially what got me into anime. Everybody in, like, my class in school, you know, when I was in primary school, was just like Pokemon mad. You know, I saw people, you know, playing with these trading cards. I was like, you know, what's this about? And they were like, oh, you know, watch it Saturday morning, it comes on, you know, Pokemon. And I remember the first episode of Pokemon I watched and I really didn't like it. Because I knew it was just something completely different. And I went into school and I was like, you know, I didn't like it. You know, just keep watching it, it's so good. So I kept watching it. And it just became a habit, you know. My whole family just get around just to watch Pokemon on SMTV Live, and I just got hooked. It was the first anime I watched where I was actually aware that it was anime and not just cartoons, because it was different from everything else that I watched. You know, at that time I was like into like Recess and Lloyd in Space and Kim Possible and things like that. And, you know, then you have Pokemon, which is completely different. And then from Pokemon it just kind of led on to other things like Beyblade, Digimon, you know, what else? What else did I used to watch? Dragon Ball Z. How could I forget that? Yeah. So if I'd never watched Pokemon, then I probably wouldn't have been into anime or manga at all. I really do owe Pokemon to my fascination with the entire medium. So yeah, what got me into manga? Obviously I started reading manga after I started watching anime. So when I got into Dragon Ball Z, I really wanted to, yeah, I was obsessed with like drawing all the characters, and because I didn't have any reference material, you know, I just used to watch it like on Cartoon Network. I didn't actually have any, like, you know, pictures or anything, you know, or like any, you know, Goku or anything like that, so I had to kind of like remember it from, you know, what I'd seen on the show. So my drawings were terrible. And then I remember discovering my local Forbidden Planet store in my local city centre, and in the window there was this massive like Dragon Ball Z wall scroll, and it had like Goku with all his like different various Super Saiyan forms, you know, Super Saiyan 1 up to 3, and like, it was so epic. And a few days later when I went in to go get it, like I think I was about 10 or 11 at the time, a few days later I went to go get it after I'd seen it and it was gone, somebody bought it. So I was asking for it, and then like the guys behind the counter were like, you know, oh, you know, we're out of stock, you know, we're getting it back in, but you can check out the manga, we've got some Dragon Ball Z manga in. So, you know, I was really happy. I was even more happy than I was when I saw the wall scroll, because I was like flicking through all these little Dragon Ball Z comics, you know, the paperback ones that have like 2 or 3 chapters in. So the first ever manga purchase I made was Dragon Ball Z in I think it was in the Saiyan saga when Vegeta's turning into the Great Ape, and he's he's like stamping on Goku and like throwing him against the wall and stuff. Just completely messes up his body. But I had some reference materials to draw my Dragon Ball Z characters from that point on, so that's definitely what got me into manga. So yeah, next question. Your YouTube goals. Primarily the main reason why I set up this channel and started making anime and manga related videos was basically like to network with other people who have similar interests, sort of converse with the massive vast anime community that's on YouTube. Because there's plenty of people to get to know. In terms of goals, that really is my only goal, to have like a close knit, sort of band of subscribers, who I converse with on a regular basis. I'm not really bothered about like subscriber count. I'm not bothered about having thousands of subscribers or views. That's why I don't really do like weekly chapter reviews and things like that, because that stuff's already kind of on lockdown, with like for Neverworld and Code Provider and others who do the chapter reviews in the community. I mean, I almost started doing weekly chapter reviews, but I don't see it's necessary. I enjoy watching the reviews rather than making them. So that sort of thing. I enjoy watching other people do it, so I'll leave that to them. Okay, your next question. I like this question. Favorite video game. It was a difficult question, but I enjoy thinking about it. But I'd say like my favourite video game genre would be like RPGs. I love my RPGs, and my favourite game in the RPG like genre is Fallout 3. Absolutely love that game. I love the whole like 1950s futuristic-esque style towards it. You traverse in like an apocalyptic wasteland, but you've got this cheery 1950s music playing on your radio. I love the story. The story is just so brilliant and captivating. And I'm a real like stickler for anything that's got to do with like the end of the world. I love that sort of stuff. So that's why I really love Fallout 3. So yeah, Fallout 3 is definitely my favourite game. I'm really looking forward to like another Fallout game, because I didn't really like New Vegas, but I'm hoping for another Fallout like game, after Skyrim. Your last question was favourite video game boss. That's a really cool question. But you might be disappointed with my answer, because I never grew up with like a like a PlayStation or like computer console or anything like that. So I was really a latecomer to playing games on a regular basis. Like I first got my PS2 when I was like 17, something like that. I got my first PS2 when the PS3 was already out. So I've never really played like any of the Final Fantasy games or all the old classic PS1 games that everybody considers classics. Even the Resident Evil games, when I've played is Resident Evil 3, and that was with a friend years ago. He played it, I watched him play it. But in recent years, I really enjoyed the if you played a game called Infamous, a PS3 exclusive game. The boss on that was just so cool. Like the main character you play as, Cole, he's got these like electric powers, and the main boss, you never actually really get to find out who he is until like the end. But when you do get to find out who he is, like you almost don't want to kill him, because he's doing everything for the right reasons, even though it's like he just seems completely evil, but he just kind of got this major plot twist at the end, and you feel so sorry for the guy. But he was such an awesome villain. So yeah, for that reason, well, the guy's name's Kessler. Kessler from Infamous is my favourite video game boss of all time so far. So yeah, thanks for your questions, man. Okay, moving swiftly along. Next set of questions was from Anna H519, fellow YouTube manga pickups and reviews. Alright, your first question to me was, what made you start doing videos on anime and manga, etc.? Well, specifically what made me to doing videos on anime and manga was for the fact that I love talking about something that I'm so passionate about. I love anime and manga, and not a lot of my friends read manga or watch anime. I've only really got like 2 friends who are into anime and manga, and they don't collect as much manga and watch as much anime as I do, unfortunately. So I really didn't have anybody else to really talk to about it, you know, like on a close, you know, face-to-face basis, you know. I had all these really cool things to like talk about with nobody to talk about them with, so I came to YouTube. Because I started watching like, you know, weekly chapter reviews from like the Netherworld and, you know, Code Provide and things like that. So I decided that, you know, YouTube was a brilliant platform to be able to network with people, you know, get to know more people, you know, because, you know, YouTube has such a vast community, you know, for anime and manga, you know, worldwide. You know, most of the people who I network with, like, you know, stateside, you know, it's only like a few people dotted around like yourself that know on YouTube in the UK. So yeah, that was one of the main reasons why I started doing videos on anime and manga, because I love talking about it and because I wanted to network with more people. Oh, that's a moth. I hate moths. Alright, so moving after that, your next question to me was, are there many people who put you down for watching anime and reading manga, like how it's childish, or do people you know not bother? That's a really interesting question. I'm glad you asked it, because me personally, I have experienced it to some degree, but not as much as others do. Like, when I was younger, when I was first really getting into anime and manga, when I was like collecting Dragon Ball Z, you know, the manga and things like that, you know, a few people who were like, you know, secondary to people who I knew, like, you know, friends of friends, would, you know, kind of like chastise me for, you know, reading comics. You know, you're 14, you know, you're 15, you know, why are you reading comics for kids? You know, you're just kind of that ignorance. But like nowadays, like anybody who says anything like that to me, like it angers me more, because because of the ignorance of the fact that they've never actually read manga or watched anime. So I kind of, anybody who wants to say, you know, that anime or manga is for children, you know, I kind of go on like a rant at them, and, you know, kind of go all anime hipster on them and like explain to them why it isn't childish and make them kind of look stupid, because that's essentially what they're, you know, making themselves look like. So I don't get upset by it, I just get offended by it. Anybody who wants to put me down for it, it doesn't really happen that often, to be honest, because I'm, you know, completely comfortable by, you know, admitting that, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed of, you know, in liking anime and manga, because it is such a wide and varied platform. There's so many different age demographics to it. You know, I like children's manga, I like teenagers manga, and I like adults manga. And you know, some people don't understand that, you know, that there are different age demographics to anime and manga. You know, a lot of manga and anime that is even broadcast in the West is aimed at, like, you know, ages, you know, like anywhere between like 13 and, you know, late 20s, that sort of thing. Even shonen series, you know, probably one of the main reasons why, you know, things like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z don't get aired on like primetime television is because they're so violent. I think over in Japan, like, maybe you know, you can get away with a lot more in terms of like violence and like risque sort of things, you know, risque topics, you know, on like primetime television. But, you know, you really can't get over here, because things are just more censored. You know, that's why we have, like, you know, really bad 4Kids dubs on animes, because of censoring issues. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, you know, people don't really understand anime and manga, because they don't really associate, you know, cartoons with having more adult themes. So, you know, I think it's more of a question of ignorance and, you know, lack of understanding. So that's why I don't really get upset by it when people chastise me for liking anime and manga. But yeah, to be honest, I might actually do a separate video on that topic, because it was a really good question. So, you know, thanks a lot. Okay, next person. These questions are from MB579. Thanks for all your questions, man. Your first question to me was, what was your first anime or manga purchase and when? Technically, my first my first manga purchase was when I was about 11, and it was a Dragon Ball Z like paperback comic that had like 3 chapters of like part of the Saiyan saga, in when Vegeta's turned into like a great ape. But unfortunately, because I collected a few of them from the Saiyan saga, some from the Namek saga too, but unfortunately I lost them just over the years. You know, they've just got either thrown away or just lost somewhere. But the first ever like tankobon release that I got was in 2004, and that was it's on my shelf here somewhere. I've got them wrapped up in plastic to like keep them preserved, because I'm probably not going to be rereading them for quite some years. But Volume 8 of Dragon Ball Z was my first ever manga purchase in terms of what I currently have right now. He's definitely the first graphic novel I got. The first tankobon release that I got. Well, technically I didn't get it. I got it for Christmas from a relative. I was planning on getting it, but this was the first one I got. So yeah, that's basically what kicked off my collection. My first anime purchase was actually I know what it was. It was my collection of Broly movies. We've got Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, which is the first part. Broly Second Coming, this is obviously the second part. And Bio Broly. I got these in 2005 at a store in my local city centre, which is now unfortunately closed down. It closed down years ago. Yeah, these were originally in a box, but I don't know what happened to the box. I think they got thrown away. I don't know why. But yeah, they were my first anime purchases. And these will always be on my shelf. These are some of my favourite films. Even though I don't like the Bio Broly film, I thought that was terrible. But yeah, they are my first manga and anime purchases. Let's see, your next question. What was your first anime / manga? I'm going to assume that you mean what was the first one I watched or read. The first manga ever that I read wasn't even Dragon Ball Z. It was Ranma 1/2. A friend of mine had a few of the comics. I don't know where he got them from, but yeah, he had a few copies of Ranma 1/2, and from what I remember of it, from the little bit of it that I read, it was basically about some guy who, when he falls into like a cursed spring, like or something like that, and it's like cursed by like some ghost or something. Like he basically gets cursed with I think every time he gets wet, he turns into a woman or something, or like he's a woman, or he can basically switch gender. I don't know the story at all. I don't know what the premise of it is. That's the only thing I remember of it. And I believe that Viz Media are going to be reprinting the volumes, like I think sometime next year. So I'll definitely be picking them up because it's a classic manga. I've never read it, never seen the anime, but it's something I've always seen, around as just like a classic series. So Ranma 1/2 is definitely the first manga that I ever read. The first anime I ever watched was on a cable network called Fox Kids. It was an anime called Flint the Time Detective. It's the first ever anime series that I ever watched. It was, I don't really remember much of it. I just remember there was like a cave boy kid, and like his dad was like in like a big stone mallet or something like that, and he went to various locations in time, like fighting crime, like the prehistoric era, and then being like the Renaissance era, and then like like Napoleon's era and things like that. So that's really all I remember of it. I just remember it was really fun. I remember like the theme tune as well. So yeah, they're like the first anime mangas I ever really watched. The first ones that I watched Flint the Time Detective was like the first. Flint the Time Detective and Pokemon were the first two anime that I watched where I was actually aware that they were anime and not cartoons, I guess you could say. Anyway, let's go on to your next question. Your next question was, what was it that made you want to create anime and manga videos? A few people have already asked me this question, and basically it's just for the purposes of networking with people with similar minds, similar interests, talking about something that I'm passionate about. I don't have many close friends that are into the same stuff that I am, so it's better to talk. There's a wider community on YouTube because it's international. I can meet people from all over the world. I might be doing a few like live streams and stuff. Once this channel gets a little bit more bigger and I get to know more people. Get to know more people on a personal level, I guess. So yeah, they're really my main reasons for doing videos on like anime and manga because it's just something I'm passionate about. Next question. Ooh, this is a difficult one. What is your favourite genre and demographic? Well, most of the manga that I read, like the large bulk of it is like shonen, so it's mostly boys manga, like, you know, my Naruto, my One Piece, my Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, what else have we got? Hunter x Hunter, Fullmetal Alchemist, just a ton of manga really, you know, Bakuman. But I'll probably say, so I wouldn't say shonen is my favourite demographic. I think seinen is my favourite demographic because it's more white, you know, because it's aimed at adults, so it's a lot freer in terms of what, you know, the content and what can be put in it. So I'll probably say seinen is my favourite demographic because, you know, it's something you can get more engrossed in personally, I feel. But my favourite genre, that's even more difficult because, you know, you've got like battle manga, sci-fi, romance, slice of life, you know, all these really cool genres, you know. I really like slice of life right about now, but I also really like sci-fi. I like cyberpunk stuff. That's why I really like Akira. So that's a really difficult question. You know, I love battle manga, but I love slice of life. I love educational manga, you know, but you could consider Bakuman as like an educational manga because it's like the how-to guide of creating manga, you know. That's why I really loved Bakuman, because it taught me a lot. So probably slice of life, I'd say, is my favourite genre of manga. So yeah, that's a really good question. Alright, so your final question to me was, what music do you like? I like that question. Something aside from, you know, talking about anime and manga. When I was younger, I was really into like my hip hop. Like I used to love like Jay-Z, DMX, Nas, you know, Notorious B.I.G., things like that. Now I'm more into like classic hip hop. I was really into old school hip hop too, but nowadays hip hop for me has just kind of died. Like when I was like, you know, 15, I really started getting into like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and, you know, more rock, you know, new metal, that kind of thing. And then it just kind of developed from there. You know, started listening to like Metallica. You know, I'm still a massive Metallica fan. I've got all of the albums. Well, I've got all of the albums that I like. I only like Metallica up until the point like where, and I don't like the 90s stuff. I like the 80s music. Like I love a lot of thrash metal. You know, like I love Black Sabbath. You know, even they're not really thrash metal. They're just like heavy metal, and they're like, you know, early 80s, late 70s kind of thing. But the stuff I'm kind of listening to now, like I love like grunge metal, like, you know, Pantera, a band called Exorder, you know, they're so heavy. I kind of like punk and like funk kind of music as well. Like I'm a really big fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers. I love their, you know, their 90s albums, like, you know, Californication, Bloodsugar Sex Magic, what else, you know, Mother's Milk, you know, all them classic Red Hot Chili Peppers albums. I don't really like the new album, but I really liked the Stadium Arcadium album from 2006. That was an awesome album. Funny enough, here as well, I've got Rage Against the Machine's album. I love Rage Against the Machine. Over here, I don't know if you're from the UK or anything, but in 2010, once a year there's always like, you know, that we have the X Factor on, and pretty much every year like the X Factor gets the Christmas #1, you know, in the charts. But for 2010, everybody practically rebelled against that, and Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name got Christmas #1 that year, basically just to, you know, piss all over X Factor, and it was just brilliant. And that's really what got me into Rage Against the Machine, because, you know, it was just rebellious, you know. And once I bought the album, I loved all of the music. So yeah, I love Rage Against the Machine. What else do I listen to? I'm really into Muse. I love Muse. Muse is a good band. God, I listen to plenty of music. Like I'm really into like classical music as well. I listen to like quite a lot of like soundtrack music from like films, and like, you know, I've recently been getting into like, you know, anime soundtracks and stuff like that. I really love the One Piece soundtrack. Probably one of my guilty pleasures is like Disney music, like soundtracks from like Disney films, like, you know, The Lion King and Pocahontas and Beauty and the Beast, things like that. You know, like piano renditions of, you know, songs like that. But yeah, I love classical music. I'm really versatile when it comes to like my musical tastes. You know, I can listen to hip hop, I can listen to rap, I can listen to heavy metal, I can listen to thrash metal, classical, even Motown. You know, I even went through a phase where I was listening to Motown music and like blues. The only music I don't really like is like jazz and like pop. I don't like pop music. You know, like I don't really like, you know, the top 40 chart music. You know, like, you know, Nicki Minaj and Drake and Lil Wayne. I can't really listen to stuff like that. So yeah, yeah, thanks. That's a really cool question. You know, it got me talking about something else. So yeah, thanks for your questions. Moving on to the next person, we got AnimangaHunter. He's got a few questions for me too. He asked me like 5 questions, which is really cool. His first question was, what's your favourite manga series of all time? I've read a lot of manga. I own quite a fair amount of manga. So my favourite shonen, I've already like answered this question already, but my favourite shonen manga is One Piece, just for the emotional impact it's had on me and how it's affected my life. It's had a massive impact, you know, a massive positive impact on my life. But my favourite seinen manga, you know, adult manga, probably would be like Akira or maybe like 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. You know, much more adult themed, you know, there's a lot more, you know, deeper issues, like especially with Akira, like more deeper political issues, you know, that kind of almost intertwine with like real life events. You know, Katsuhiro Otomo, when he was writing Akira, you know, even though it's all fiction, you know, you can see similarities to certain, you know, student protesting and things like that, you know, things that were relevant to Japan at the time. So Akira is a manga that's heavily intertwined with Japanese culture, and that's why I really enjoyed reading it. So Akira and One Piece are probably like my 2 top favourite series of all time. So yeah, that's that. Let's see, your next question to me was, what got you into manga and anime? Primarily Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z. Basically anything that was like, you know, broadcast on like, you know, Toonami, like around like the early 2000s and late 90s kind of thing. You know, we had like Cartoon Network, which had like the Toonami block, you know, which used to like show anime like later on, like after the watershed, you know, after like, you know, anywhere between 5 in the afternoons, you know, all the way up to like midnight at night, you know, like Cowboy Bebop, the Big O, Gundam Wing. Well, technically I never really used to watch Gundam Wing. I wasn't really that big into like, you know, the mech series at the time. But I used to like Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star. I saw a few episodes of Crayon Shin-chan on Fox Kids. That was actually on Fox Kids. Flint the Time Detective. You know, all these shows that were kind of broadcasted all around the same time were basically primarily what got me into manga and anime. So yeah, that's that. Next question. Who's your favourite mangaka? That's not a question I've seen dotted around quite a lot. I don't see anybody really talking about like their favourite like actual people, you know, actual creators of manga. I just see people talking about like their favourite mangas in general. So this is a really interesting question. I have favourite mangaka. I have a few that I will consider my favourites for like different reasons. Because I think there's like, you know, different contributing factors that come into play when considering like who you would, you know, prefer, you know, behind the helm of writing a story or, you know, creating something. So probably one of my favourite creators would be Sugomi Oba, the writer for like Death Note and Bakuman. Like, he is an excellent writer. I love how he writes his stories. Death Note was the first series I read of his. You know, he partners up a lot with Takeshi Obata, who does, you know, a lot of his artwork. But yeah, I love how he writes his stories. I've just finished reading Bakuman, and it ended off on a really high note, and that's what I really liked about it. I love how he drives the story, and I love his pacing, and just his expertise and knowledge of, you know, the whole manga industry in general, you know, because obviously he's worked firsthand with Shonen Jump, so writing a story that basically is primarily revolving around creating manga itself, you know, he's literally, you know, he's a master at it, you know, and how he can write a story, you know, he's like a method actor, you know, he's writing by personal experience, you know, how like a method actor acts through personal experience and, you know, personal emotions. That's what I really liked about Bakuman, because you can feel his own life in what he's writing. You know, he's experienced it all already, you know, going from the bottom and working his way up to the top, you know, up in the rankings for manga. So I would definitely say that Sugomi Oba is one of my favourite writers. Now, another thing that's really important, what I feel is really important for like a manga artist, is interaction with his fans. And that's what I really love about Eiichiro Oda, the author of One Piece. If you've read the actual hard copy, you know, the official releases of One Piece, then in between most of his chapters he has like an SBS question corner segment where he basically fans sending letters directly to him and he answers them. And it's completely informal, it's so laid back, and you know, he's got such an excellent, wonderful relationship with his fans, and they just banter together in this little, you know, one-page section, and it's so great to read. You know, it's such a great breather in between chapters. You know, people send in some serious questions where he'll answer them seriously, but some people will just like, you know, there'll be like an ongoing joke for like, you know, who's going to start the SBS question corner, you know, in the start of the volume, and you know, Oda never gets the chance to start the question corner for himself because the fan will always start it for him, and you know, he'll be like, oh, like, no. And it's really, really sweet. I love his relationship with his fans, and I would love to be able to send like a postcard to him myself, so you know, I could just like show him that I support his work, and you know, maybe hopefully I would get printed in SBS, one of his SBS question corners, because there have been people. I think there was a guy from France who sent in a postcard, and it got printed in the SBS question corner. And yeah, he just, you can see he really respects his fans, and he's so grateful for the success that he's got from his fans, because you know, you can tell he loves what he does, even though he works, it's like really, really hard. You can tell he loves what he does. So you know, I really respect Eiichiro Oda for that, and that's why he's one of my favourite mangakas. Another one of my favourite mangaka is Takahiko Inoue, the author of like Slam Dunk and Vagabond, primarily for Vagabond because that's the only one of his works that I've read. And he's one of my favourite mangakas solely for the reason that his art style is the best art style I've seen in a manga ever. His artwork is just, I'll give you an example. You can just see, just from like the spine, how excellent his artwork is. Let me see if I can find a good page. I'll try and find a colour page. His artwork is just stunning. He uses like watercolour. He doesn't use like Copic markers like, you know, regular you know, manga artists. He uses like watercolours to like paint. He's essentially an artist. You know, he's had like art exhibitions and things like that. I think he had one in New York. Obviously I didn't go to it myself, but yeah, he's hold on, let's get this in here. Yeah, his art style is probably my favourite. And he's kind of like almost tying with Katsuhiro Otomo, the author of Akira. You know, his art style is also fantastic. But you know, I could keep on reeling names of like my favourite, you know, mangakas, but I don't necessarily have a top one, you know, favourite. I have multiple favourite mangakas that I like for different reasons. So yeah, that's a very interesting question. Thanks a lot for answering that, asking that, sorry. Next question. Has anime/manga changed your personality? It has and it hasn't. It's changed aspects of like my characteristics, but I wouldn't say it's changed my personality as a whole. I'd say it's made me more confident as a person, you know, kind of accepting that, you know, it's an interest that I love, and you know, it's a lifelong thing for me. You know, you get a lot of, you know, prejudiced. I haven't personally suffered it myself to a great extent, but you know, people who are into like, you know, anime or manga or comics in general, you know, kind of have that, you know, label, you know, oh, you're a nerd, you're a geek, why do you watch cartoons, that kind of thing, you know, they get them prejudices. But I've completely accepted that with myself, and it's made me more of a confident person. You know, I love speaking about it, I love talking about anime and manga, so I would say it's made me more confident. But I can also learn a lot from manga, you know, any mangas that you read, you know, always have like, you know, morality tales and things like that, you know, uplifting stories, you know, that kind of thing. It just makes you feel happy, you know. I get a real urge and real sense of happiness when I read manga, so it's an escape in a way, but you know, it's made me more of a better person, I'd say. Let's see what time we have. Next question, your final question to me was, what kind of food do you like? Now, that's a really cool question, you know, off topic, and I like that. I like I kind of think I have a bit of a limited taste palette. You know, I kind of like my traditional Irish food. I love Caribbean food. I love Indian food. Anything spicy, I love spicy food. You know, I love hearty meals. You know, I've got a kind of a slogan where, you know, a kind of catchphrase where it's like, no meat, no meal. I love, you know, my meals with like meat, where it's red meat or white meat, you know, chicken or whatever. I don't care. If it's got meat in it, I'm happy. You know, I like shepherd's pie. Just recently started eating like things like sushi and things like that. I love my ramen noodles ever since reading Naruto. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I like a lot of different foods, but I really do have a limited taste palette. You know, I don't really experiment that much with food. I just kind of like end up eating all the same sort of things over and over again. You know, but I love my Indian food and my Caribbean food mostly, as long as it's spicy. I love my spicy food. But yeah, thanks a lot for your questions. You know, they're really interesting. Alright, so next set of question. Oh well, one question is from Immortallium. I found your comment quite funny, how everybody pretty much asked all the questions that you were wanting to ask. So the question you came up with was actually a really good question. That question is, what is the worst anime and or manga you have ever seen or read? This is a difficult question, because even though I've got, you know, a reasonable amount of collection, there's not particularly any manga that I've, you know, disliked to a point where I absolutely despise it. But I will answer my worst anime and the manga that I dislike the most. Anime is a little bit easier because I've seen, you know, animes that I have really disliked. You know, either on, you know, ones that I don't actually own, because my anime collection is not that big, so I've seen more anime than I actually own. But the worst anime that I actually own, and this is genuinely a film I really despise, is Dragon Ball Z Bio Broly, which is the third Broly movie, and this was a massive disappointment. It was just terrible. Broly's not even really a character in it, he's just a big green blob, as you can see. I was really disappointed with, I mean, I don't know if, I don't think, have you actually seen I'm pretty sure you've seen Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if you've seen any of the Dragon Ball Z films. Let me know if you have. But Broly was such a massive disappointment for a character. He was supposed to be like the legendary Super Saiyan, and pretty much through all three films that he's in, he doesn't really speak. He just you know, repetitively says Kakarot, 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 and it's really irritating because he's like an animal. It's like he hasn't got like a human consciousness. He's just like a functioning, you know, like he's like a machine, and I just found him really annoying. And then in this film, he just like, because he gets killed like twice already. Well, he gets killed in the first one, and then I think in the second one he gets frozen or something. And then in this one, he's like some scientist manages to, like, you know, extract his genes and like create this, like, you know, jelly blob. You know, it's not even Broly. It's Bio Broly. It's just terrible. And then, like, you know, he ends up being killed by Krillin, like, and Goten and Trunks, I believe. Of all people, Krillin manages to, you know, finish him. And it was just such a terrible end for a potentially good character, because I'd always had really big expectations for Broly as a character, you know, and he was completely anticlimactic, and I didn't enjoy it at all. But yeah, that's the worst anime that I own. Now, the worst anime that I've seen, because I mostly watched anime when I was younger, when, you know, there was like the Toonami block on Cartoon Network, and when some animes were still being broadcast, you know, on, like, you know, Saturday morning television, you know, on Channel 5 and Channel 3 and things like that. And I remember I was a really big fan of Beyblade. You know, there was that period of about a few years when everybody was into Beyblade and they started collecting Beyblades. And I really loved the first season of Beyblade. The first season of Beyblade was excellent. And then when the second season premiered and the entire art style changed, and, you know, the musical score changed, I think the voice actors even changed. I might be wrong on that. No, in fact the voice actors stayed the same, I believe, but I really did not like the second season. I was so unbelievably disappointed, because from what I remember of Beyblade, like right at the end of the first season, like Tai, I think, is the main character, or yeah, I think it's called Tai, but he ends up like winning the tournament or something like that. But then in like the first episode of the second season, he loses, and it was like, this is just, it was against just some random, like, you know, new villain or something, but I just didn't like it. I could not grasp it. It was kind of like how when Pokemon went to like Johto journeys, I didn't like that transition either. I preferred like the original 151 Pokemon. You know, I'm always like, you know, traditional like that. So yeah, the second season of Beyblade I really disliked. But again, there's not really many. You know, like I said before, I watched the first episode of Elemental Gallade, which you recommended to me, and you know that kind of sucked as well. But I haven't seen enough of that to basically, you know, call it the worst thing I've ever seen. So it's kind of difficult to answer. In terms of manga, that's even more difficult, to be honest. I mean, the manga that I own, you know, there are certain mangas that I dislike, but you know, I will end up keeping them and rereading them to try and, you know, kind of establish like, you know, a love for them. Like I remember picking up. I've had this for a few years now, maybe about 2 or 3 years. Fooly Cooly FLCL, like the 1 in 3 omnibus, and the story is. I mean, there's not really much to the story, but the art style. I mean, it's by Gainax, you know, so it's all right. But the artwork in this is just it's too. It's kind of confusing. It's really messy in points, and you really can't understand what's going on from like one page to the next, and you know the characters kind of like blur, and I don't know. In comparison to the anime of this, like this really lacks. Like the anime for this was excellent. I love the anime so much. It's even though it's relatively short. And I think the manga is basically a rendition from the anime. So it was a real step down for me, and I was really disappointed with the manga. I will end up rereading it though, because you know the art is good, but it's not good for, you know, the genre that it is, I feel. So yeah, in terms of manga, I'd probably say that's the one that I dislike the most, but it's not the worst I've read. Again, you know, probably the worst thing really that I've read. And it's not necessarily that it's bad, it's just something that, you know, because basically Fairy Tail, I know that's got a massive, huge following, you know, I know there's so many people that love it, but it's kind of like, it's kind of on par with like my love for Bleach, well, my lack of love for Bleach, should I say, you know, because a lot of people compare Fairy Tail to One Piece, so, you know, it was a friend that recommended Fairy Tail to me, so when I started reading that, and because he told me that, oh, it's really similar to One Piece, you know, the characters are really, really similar, the art style's really similar, I think you really like it, so I was like, okay, you know, I had somewhat of an expectation for something, and, you know, that it might be good, but, you know, it just, a little bit fan service, a little bit too much fan service, you know, I don't know, I just couldn't grasp it, I just couldn't, you know, it didn't solidify itself as like, you know, something that I really wanted to, you know, I wasn't motivated to carry on reading it, so, you know, that's not something I'm going to collect. And I had that same feeling with Bleach as well. Like I liked everything up to the Soul Society arc, and then everything after that, like the Hueco Mundo arc leading up to the Aizen arc, was really disappointing for me. So they're kind of among the mangas that, you know, I dislike but don't hate, if you know what I mean. But nonetheless, you know, thanks for asking that question. It's a really interesting question. I may end up doing, you know, like maybe like a video or something like that, you know, maybe in a few months' time once I've like, you know, cleared my backlog and things like that, because I'm just currently reading Hunter x Hunter, which I'm kind of wishy-washy with also. So, you know, I'll probably get back to you on that, because I might do a first impressions video on that, seeing as you did one. Like you're one of the reasons why I picked up Hunter x Hunter in the first place and started reading that, so I'll get back to you on that. So thanks for your question. Okay, we are finally going on to the final page of questions. Next person is Nico Robin. Robin Chuan for the win. They asked me, what's your favourite anime opening? That's a cool question. I'm just currently watching like mostly seasonal anime. Like I watch quite a lot of anime on like on Crunchyroll and things like that. So I really, you know, as with most people nowadays, you know, especially this year, I love the Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan openings, especially the second one. The second one I prefer to the first one. I think that's such a badass opening, like especially with that little scene in the opening where you see Mikasa and she's got like the rope around like her hand, like, you know, she's training or something. She's got like the vest and stuff, and you just like, see like the bottom half of her face. Like that is such a brilliant opening. And like you see Armin like with, you know, covered in blood. You know, that's just a brilliant opening. But for more, I like more classic openings. Like I really love, I'm actually a real, I've got a few guilty pleasures, like the original Pokemon opening, that just such a classic. The Digimon opening, the English version of the Digimon opening. That I absolutely love that song. I used to like play that full blast when I was young because I had my television connected to like my stereo, so I used to listen to my anime through like speakers, and anytime the Digimon came on, I would just literally turn it up, and blast it out, for that minute or so that it was on. Such an epic song. Then around like 2005, started watching a lot more animes then, because Toonami like had its own separate channel. Well, at first it was actually called CNX, which I believe stood for Cartoon Network Extra or something. But then it changed to Toonami, and it was just like a dedicated channel for anime. And that's where I started like being introduced to a lot more newer anime, a lot more different animes other than Dragon Ball Z. And there was an anime called Ultimate Muscle, the Kanikoman Legacy. And the English opening for that, I absolutely loved it. It was so funky. I love the anime as well. I'm pretty sure there's a manga for it, but I think it's out of print. But the opening for that, you should check it out. The Ultimate Muscle, the Kanikoman Legacy English opening. It's such an awesome song, in my opinion. And I might get, in the next one, I might actually get a lot of slack for. But One Piece, I was introduced to that anime through the 4Kids dub of it. So that was, I had nothing to compare it to. So the only opening I was familiar with at that time was the One Piece rap, which has notoriously got such, a negative following, but I actually really like it. I kind of do. I kind of like it, the original One Piece rap from the 4Kids dub. I'm not going to recite it because it's just too embarrassing. Just, if you haven't watched it or heard of it, go check it out. One Piece opening, 4Kids dub, or One Piece rap. It's cringingly bad, but to me it's cringingly good. So I don't necessarily have a favourite anime opening. I just have a few that I really like. I really like the soundtrack. I'm more into soundtracks. Like, I really love the soundtrack for if you played the One Piece Pirate Warriors game. I love the soundtrack from that. It's such an excellent soundtrack, like with the air guitars and the electric guitars and stuff. The guitar solos and that are just simply awesome. As well as the OST for Naruto as well. I love that soundtrack. So yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks. Your next question was, what's your dog's name? Yeah, you've seen my dog in quite a few videos. She usually comes like, coming up to me bugging. She's a real people person. When I actually first got her, because I've had her since she was a puppy, she would literally follow me around like everywhere I went. Like, even if I was going out, she would literally try and like practically barge through the door in order to follow me. If I went to the toilet, she would scrape the outside door, try to follow me. So I decided to call her Shadow. Originally, like, I called her it because it was more of a nickname, because we couldn't think of a name for her. I was like, oh, me and my Shadow. So it just kind of stuck. It actually just became her name. So yeah, Shadow. Really friendly dog. She's somewhere, I don't even know where she is now. I think she's downstairs, but yeah, Shadow. That's my dog. Your next question was, since when do you read manga? I've been reading manga now about, coming up to about 14 years. I started reading manga when I was about 10 or 11. I don't know exactly what date, but the first manga I ever read was Ranma 1/2, and that was when I was about 10 or 11. So yeah, about 13, 14 years I've been reading manga. It's kind of been on and off. Like, I was reading a lot of manga when I was like 10 and 11, and then I just went through a massive Dragon Ball Z phase for like years, and then like in 2008, 2009 I got into like more manga like Naruto, One Piece and things like that, So yeah, I have been reading manga on and off for a good like, solid 13 years, and it's only really now that I'm getting like a massive collection of manga, reading a lot more stuff. Your next question, your final question was, does anybody in your family watch anime or read manga? In fact, no, that's not it. That's the penultimate question. Written it down. That's another good question. The thing is, I don't know many people who like read manga, but I've got my cousin reads a little bit of manga and he watches some anime. He watches like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Reads Neon Genesis Evangelion as well. He watched Naruto. I think he watches Full Metal Alchemist. So he's pretty much into the same stuff I am, and my mother as well. She's seen a bit of anime with me. Like I've watched like animes with her. From my collection. Like she's seen Grave of the Fireflies, that Studio Ghibli film. A few of the animes that I've got, like Origin, Spirits of the Past. I think there's another anime she watched with me as well. I can't remember. Oh yeah, Mushishi. Yeah. So I've introduced some of my family to anime, but like my cousin he already was reading anime and manga anyway. So that's just something we grew up with together. So yeah, that's an interesting question too. Something I never really thought about. Anyway, your final question. Now is your final question. What's your profession? As you can see, I'm a student. Studying art. So once I'm finished with university, I'll probably go into like a career to do with like art or something in media or something like that. Or preferably my ideal situation would be to like work for like like a publisher or something like that. Maybe have set up something to the equivalent of like Shonen Jump. If I amass a fortune, if I win the lottery even. But yeah, I'd love to write my own graphic novel. I'd love to be the artist and story writer for my own graphic novel. That's get sell books, sell manga. I'd love to be able to do that, or work for like somewhere in like the anime or like manga industry, or animation or something like that, or independent art. There's a lot of different options that I can go in. So yeah, something I need to be thinking about once I finish university. So yeah, thanks for your questions. All right, next person on the list. Was Ibrahim Hersi. He asked me, will you review One Piece manga weekly or any other mangas? I don't know if you've seen already, but I've got a playlist that's got like 2 and like an extra manga discussion, like weekly chapter reviews of One Piece. I started, but then I saw that like a lot of other reviewers, had the weekly reviews on lockdown already. I'm not sure yet if this is the kind of channel that I want to do like weekly reviews on. If I do decide to do like weekly reviews, I might set up a second channel, because I don't want this channel to be clogged up with loads of reviews like each week. I basically set up this channel because I wanted to start doing reviews of like series, whole series and whole anime series, rather than weekly serializations. And I do a few like time-lapse drawings, so I don't want them to get like lost in videos upon videos of just series weekly reviews. The only series that I'm actually caught up to online are Naruto and One Piece, and obviously Naruto is coming to an end, so there's no point in me doing reviews on that now. But once it does end, like within the next year or so, I don't know, or maybe this time next year, maybe it'll be ending, or by next summer or something, it might end. I'll end up doing like a final impressions video on it, and just like a general Naruto discussion. I might do that through live stream, or I might invite like a guest, maybe one of my friends to come on the video, and like both we discuss One Piece or something, not One Piece, with Naruto or something. So I will definitely do a Naruto related video, but unfortunately I won't be doing weekly reviews for Naruto, because it's wrapping up all the loose ends anyway, and I haven't firmly established myself as a weekly reviewer anyway. So that's something I might start reviewing One Piece, maybe chapters here and there that really excite me, because I absolutely love One Piece, but I don't really feel that drive or like for One Piece when I'm reading it online. Like I don't really feel that same excitement when I read a manga online. Like I prefer to read, I'm much more accustomed to reading manga in book format, like laying down, sitting down under a light, and literally reading that tangible feel of reading a manga. You get the full translation, the correct translation, and I find that some translations sometimes can be, not as reliable as when you get the official release. I've read a few Naruto chapters, in like the past year, that I've just had terrible translations, where they've just been, grammatically incorrect, mistakes in, the translations and things like that, and it just takes away the enjoyment. So I'm trying to resist reading stuff online, really and truly. The only reason why I can't stop reading One Piece is because I'm already so up to date. I've already got all my hard copies, but I've only got up to date of what's been released in English, so you know it's more of an urge to read One Piece, but because I'm already reading them, it's kind of thrown me off from reading other series up to date. Like I could easily start reading Attack on Titan, which is another series I love up to date, but because I've experienced bad things with, you know, series like Naruto and One Piece by reading them online with poor translations, I don't want to ruin any other mangas for myself, you know, story-wise. I might actually even stop reading manga online altogether and just basically reading them as and when the official releases come out, so I can get the entire enjoyment out of the series. Because I remember at a point where I was reading One Piece and I was reading it basically just as the volumes came out, so each volume was completely new to me. Basically, when I'm reading One Piece now, I don't get that same enjoyment out of it because, you know, I've already read it online, so I already kind of know the story, and you know, I don't really get that refreshing feel from it. So, you know, it's debatable. If I get enough requests to do so, or if I get, because you know, it's an awkward situation. Obviously, I'm an anime and manga reviewer, but I don't do many. You know, there's other channels like, you know, Bob Samurai and, you know, other people like him who are firmly established in the anime manga community, but they don't do weekly, you know, chapter reviews, and still, you know, they've got success out of it. But success isn't something that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for thousands and thousands of subscribers and, you know, thousands of followers. I'm here mostly for networking and, you know, building, you know, personal relationships, you know, personal friendships with people, you know, to you know, have manga and anime discussions, you know, maybe set up like a clan or something. You know, there's like Green Clan Studios that TheAnimeBlaze and, you know, a few others are part of. You know, if I could set something up like that and, you know, just have like general manga discussions rather than, you know, up to date serialization, you know, reviews. So, you know, I appreciate your question, but it's something that I'm still debating with myself as to whether or not, you know, I should really go in that route with this channel, because I've got a lot of things planned with this channel, but that's not essential, I feel. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks for your question. Okay, we're finally drawing up to a close, nearly. Penultimate set of questions from Count Mecha. I've seen you dotted around through my videos. You're a big Gundam fan, so I'm glad to see that you asked me a few questions. So your first question was, I know you've got The Walking Dead on your shelf. Do you have any other American European comics? Yeah, I do. I've got a few. Most of what I've got in terms of comic wise, I've like lent off a few friends, and I've lent one off my cousin. But ones that I own, there's a really good series called Elephant Men by Richard Starkins. It's basically about it's set in the future, where basically like an evil scientist has basically like gene spliced human DNA with like animals, usually like African animals like elephants and rhinos and zebras, and all these crazy things, basically for the purpose of war, to create like human animal like war machines. And basically it's like a massive war that goes on, like, and you know, there's devastation on both sides, human and elephant man. And it's basically like the war's over, and like the elephant men that survive the war are basically trying to slowly integrate with society. You know, they're trying to find like homes for them, and basically it's about the segregation and, you know, all the politics concerning, you know, the lives of these basically affected human animal hybrids. And it's really good if you're into like sci-fi, cyberpunk, gritty thriller, almost film noir-esque comics. You know, it's really good. And the thing is as well, like, it's written by one guy, but there's like, I think it's like, yeah, like 5 artists that work in it, so the artwork changes throughout, which is really, really interesting. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but the artwork is really, really good, and the print quality is awesome. So if you're into like independent comics, it's published by Image. I highly recommend you pick this up because it is a really interesting read. I've currently got like 4 volumes, because there's also like a prequel, which I haven't read yet. Which is like this is like the prequel, which is like details like some of the events in the war, because basically the story starts in volume 1, and it starts like after, yeah, like I think it's like 60 years after the war has already happened, and you know, this kind of details like a few events that are in the war, I believe, but I haven't read this volume yet. Other than that, I have, let's see, there's nothing on that shelf. There's a few things that I've lent. I lent this Transformers comic off my cousin, More Than Meets the Eye. I haven't read it yet, but it looks interesting. Since I've been getting into like more mech sort of manga related stuff, you know, like Gundam and stuff like that, and Neon Genesis Evangelion. He thought I'd recommend something, you know, a mech manga, well, a mech comic, you know, from the West. Now, you know, I'm familiar with Transformers. I've seen the, you know, some of the films and a little bit of the, you know, the cartoon series, and you know, I'm looking forward to reading this. A few of the things that I know that a friend lent me was you can't actually see anything. It's like an embossed version of Superman, Superman for Tomorrow. I read this, and it's really, really good. The art is just beautiful. The story is amazing. I've never been a massive fan of Superman, or DC for that matter. I used to own Batman Year One, which it was really, really good. But I ended up selling it to a friend. One other thing he lent me as well is Superior by Mark Miller. I haven't read this yet, but the artwork looks pretty cool. And he also lent me Super Crooks. It's from the same creators of Kick-Ass. I've seen the Kick-Ass film and really like that, so I will be picking up the Kick-Ass comic, and I need to pick up Scott Pilgrim as well, because I've seen the Scott Pilgrim film and I really like that. It made me want to pick up them, it's like a comic manga, it's like kind of manga-ish, so yeah, I'm not opposed to reading comics. It's just that because I'm not interested in like Marvel or DC, and that Marvel itself is just so confusing to me. Like there's like you have like Spider-Man and you know, X-Men, but you know, like you'll have like alternate retellings of like the same thing by, you know, different creators, and it's just, I don't know where to start with it all. That's my main problem with, you know, Marvel and DC. So yeah, I'm not opposed to reading comics. It's just that I just find the whole thing very confusing. I find reading manga much easier to understand. Let's see, your next question. What's your favourite thing you've read this year so far? I have to say probably my favourite thing, new series that I've started this year at least, is Attack on Titan. I know everybody's going on about it, and I know it's like the most popular thing right now, but it really is my favourite thing that I've read this year so far. It literally just blew me away. I noticed it like last year, but I never decided to pick it up. But then since the anime started, like, and how the animation was so crisp and beautiful, I decided to pick up the manga, and I was really impressed. The story is just unbelievably fantastic, you know. I don't think I know anybody who hasn't actually watched this yet, or read it for that matter. So yeah, I basically pick up these volumes as and when they come out. If you haven't read Attack on Titan, it's basically humankind, like mankind, is like retreated behind like these walls because 100 years ago, giant beings, humanoid beings called Titans, wiped out the human race, basically eating them alive. And it's just basically like the struggles of, like, you know, going beyond the walls and trying to find out new things and trying to extend beyond the walls and reclaim the earth from the devastation that was created. So yeah, Attack on Titan is just excellent. Let's see, next question. Any American, European comics or manga or anime coming out that you're looking forward to? Not so much with American or European comics, because I basically buy them from the little that I have. I basically get them like on recommendation, so nothing that's, I'm not even aware that's anything that's what coming out. So it's mostly manga and anime that's, you know, I've got a few pre-orders on, and I'm really looking forward to Vinland Saga. I've never read it, but on Anime News Network it's like in the top 10 of greatest mangas of all time, and it's coming out in like a hardcover, so I'm really looking forward to that. Tropic of the Sea by Satoshi Kon, one of my favourite directors. It's the same guy like directed like Paprika and Millennium Actress and Perfect Blue, and I love those films, and like there's a manga of his coming out posthumously because obviously he passed away. The Sword Art Online Blu-ray that's coming out in December, I'm really looking forward to that coming out, especially on Blu-ray. I saw the trailer with like the English dub track on it, and it sounds really good. Perfect Blue by Satoshi Kon, which I just mentioned, is coming out in like a collector's edition. I think it's like a steelbook. I'm looking forward to that coming out. It's going to be on Blu-ray as well. FLCL or Fooly Cooly, that's getting a Blu-ray release as well. I love Fooly Cooly. I just don't like the manga, but I love the anime for Fooly Cooly, so I'll definitely be getting that. And Outlaw Star, which I used to watch on Toonami like years and years and years ago. That's also coming out on DVD, the whole series, and I finally can't wait. I just hope they release like Tenchi Muyo, and I hope they re-release Gundam Wing as well, because I really want to check out Gundam Wing, because I've checked out the original series, Mobile Suit Gundam. Obviously, you know, you're a fan of it yourself, so I really want them to re-release that. And Count Mecha, your final question to me was, do you have a favourite soundtrack from an anime? I have a few. Not so much that I could say I have a particular favourite. I really like the Attack on Titan soundtrack, you know, all the background music and everything for that is just ace. I love the original, the One Piece soundtrack on, you know, in the anime for that. It's just so good. I just love One Piece in general. And I really love the soundtrack that comes with the One Piece Pirate Warriors game as well. That's just masterfully written. Soundtracks is not something I concentrate on it, but it's not something I like listen to. Like, you know, like I haven't actually bought like any soundtracks, if you know what I mean. Like I don't know, you know, I'm not aware of like who they're produced by or anything like that. It's probably something I'm gonna look into more like once I get more into anime, because I read more manga. You know, anime is something relatively new that I'm getting into on like a serious level. So soundtrack wise, it's just something like, you know, I enjoy, you know, as like a pastime. I'll probably get a little bit more serious about it and like, you know, start actually collecting and like listening to them like outside of anime once I get more into it. But yeah, I really love the Attack on Titan soundtrack, the One Piece soundtrack, the Naruto anime soundtrack, as well as the Ultimate Ninja Storm games. The soundtracks for them are ace. There was an Xbox 360 game called Naruto Bonds, or Unbroken Bonds or something. I can't remember what it was called, but the soundtrack for that was really good. But yeah, that's mostly what I like. You know, it's not too much. You know, I'm still new to watching like some seasonal anime and stuff like that. I'm still trying to catch up. So you know, I might get back to you on that, or I might do maybe a separate video on that or something. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, thanks for your questions. And right, finally, last but not least, we have Paul55724. He's got two questions for me. First question, very good question. What is your favourite place in the world? Wow. I've been abroad a few times, not too many times, but I really like France. France is really, really nice. I went to Disneyland when I was younger, and that was just excellent. I absolutely loved Disneyland. Spent like a week in France, and yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it's quite some years ago now. Also, I really love Ireland. Like, I've got family over in Ireland, so you know, I felt just at home. You know, even though I wasn't born there, you know, I felt at home when I went to Ireland. I went to North and the South. But places that I really want to visit, I really want to visit America. I really want to visit New York. You know, like North, the East Coast of America. I really like. You know, want to visit South America. I want to go to Brazil. But probably my number one destination, and this is a specific destination. I want to visit Akihabara in Tokyo, in Japan, because Akihabara, from what I've researched, is basically like the otaku central of the world. Like, otaku is basically in Akihabara, in Japan, and I need to go there. There's so many things I would love to. I mean, just Japan in general, I want to go to. I mean, Asia, even Asia in general, just that whole continent is just I want to do like I want to spend a couple of years just journeying through Asia, like China, you know, Japan, Southeast Asia, like, you know, Vietnam, Laos, the Philippines, Malaysia. One of my closest friends is Malaysian, and some of the, you know, places that I've seen, you know, where his family live and stuff like that just looks so beautiful. Vietnam, I think I mentioned Thailand. You know, there's so many places I want to visit. Africa, you know, I really want to travel, you know, a lot once I'm finished with my studies and stuff. So Yeah, it's just so many places I want to want to go, and so many places that I've been to and really enjoyed. But yeah, that's a good question. Thanks a lot. And last but not least, this video is long. It's coming to about 2 hours. I never expected it to be that long. But your last question to me was, what's your favourite manga and anime? I've answered this question to a few people already, but I'll answer it for you as well. Favourite manga, shonen wise, I would have to say One Piece. For its length, for its characters, its whole backstory, the history that surrounds the the whole One Piece world. There's every aspect about One Piece that I love. I'll literally be following it forever. I love that it's just so long. There's just so much to grasp. The pacing's just perfect for my taste. Seinen wise, I'd say my favourite seinen manga is probably Akira, or one of the series by Naoki Urasawa, like 20th Century Boys or Monster. But Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo, he's got some of the best artwork I've ever seen. A really excellent story. I remember the original anime movie feature from 1988. I first saw that in 1996, and I didn't even understand that it was anime. I just thought it was like a cartoon. I didn't really understand it, but I knew it was something different because it was so violent and it was shown late at night on a channel over here. So yeah, Akira is probably one of my favourite manga. Anime wise, I'm a massive Studio Ghibli fan. Like, I love Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, The Cat Returns, Howl's Moving Castle, Laputa Castle in the Sky, My Neighbor Totoro. I love Ghibli. I love a lot of stuff that's produced by Production IG, like Ghost in the Shell. I need to see the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex series, but I heard that's really good. Attack on Titan is something I'm really hyped on right about now, like everybody else. Dragon Ball Z, the anime, that's a classic. There's nothing I can particularly pinpoint as my favourite anime wise. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for your questions, and thank you generally to everybody who participated in this. Like I said, if you stick around to watch all 2 hours of this video, then major props to you. Major big up to you. But like I said before at the start of the video, I will put a list of each of your usernames in the description below with the time at which I answer each of your questions, because obviously it's in segments. Some of you have asked me like 5 questions, so I'll put all of your names in the description with the times at which I start answering your questions, so you can skip to the part in the video where I start answering your question personally if you want to do it that way, or you can just watch the whole video and wait for me to get to your questions. So yeah, just a little bit of consideration for you guys, just so you don't have to skip through and find exactly where I'm asking your questions. So yeah, again, thank you so much for the response, for the Q&A announcement. 18 of you. That was much more than I expected. I would have been happy with 2 or 3 people. I would have still made the video if even just 2 or 3 people have asked me questions. Because it makes all the while you guys interact with me. You get to find out a little bit more about me, and generally, if anybody has any questions for me anytime, it doesn't matter if I'm doing a Q&A video or not. If anybody has any questions for me anytime, just personal message me, or put a comment on one of my videos or anything like that. I'm all for networking and socializing and things like that. I'm very I guess I'm approachable. So yeah, if you like this video, leave a like, comment, whatever you feel. If you've got any more questions, I'll definitely answer anything that you want to ask. And yeah, subscribe if you're new to this channel. And yeah, I will see you in another video. Archangel Manga.